Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. So off of high demand, we're going to be doing the lightning attack tutorial. I actually slightly adjusted it, so let me show you what I adjusted it to look like. So the only thing I really adjusted was like the camera shake and added a debounce. So this is what it looks like, right? Boom. A little bit more smooth camera shake. Does damage of course, and you can't spam it. As you can see, I'm like spamming my Q button and it only goes off once every 5 seconds. So that's going to be the little bonus for this video because I didn't do it in the last one. So that's what we're going to be doing. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about are the assets you will need, which is like the sounds, the particles, and the models. So it's really not too hard to find a sound. So if you want to find your own sounds, all you have to go is go to the toolbox and then go to go to this little shopping basket, go down to the sounds section, audio, and you could search up lightning or something. Find whichever one you like best. If not, I'm probably going to leave a model in the description of the video that I have all my assets with. So if you want to use my sound, that's perfectly fine. So I'm going to go ahead. The next thing that I'm going to need you guys to have, I'm not sure if this is like fully required, but I definitely recommend having it. So if you go again to the toolbox, go to plugins. There's this super useful plugin, not videos, my bad, called emit, right? So this allows you to emit particles, just like a firework almost, and it doesn't like constantly come out. So super useful for making the lightning strike. And finally, we're just gonna need the actual lightning model, which is really easy to make. It's very customizable too. You can make this look however you want. So you could just add a part by clicking up here, and then all you really have to do is resize it however you want. Make it look like a giant rod. Doesn't matter. Um, you can change the color to anything you want. It could be green, yellow, red. Doesn't really matter. Material could be anything. Just make sure it's anchored. You don't need Cane Collide on, that's up to you. So yeah, I'm just going to take what I currently have and show you. So I'll put it right now inside the server script service because I'm going to be putting a script. So here's the lightning I'm going to have. Ooh, it's all the way over there. Ooh. Right now I have it kind of transparent and I unioned it. So if you go to model union, it kind of combines all the parts together. So let me make this non-transparent. So that's just because the use part color. Oh, and plus I put it in server script service, so you won't see it. There we go. So that's what my lightning looks like that I use in the video. So if you want to make something like this, you can make it look cooler. It's really up to you what you want it to look like. So I'm going to put it back in here for now. And I'd say let's get right into the scripting. I don't want to waste any of your time. So again, this is a high demand video, so I'm very excited to be making this. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to actually be doing is we're going to be making the input script. So input meaning like mouse clicks, keyboard clicks, stuff like that. So I'm going to go to the starter player in the Explorer. Again, you could access the Explorer by going to the View tab up top, Explorer. And then I'm going to go down to the starter player scripts, and I'm going to click that plus sign, add a local script. Remember, local scripts only you can see, only the player that is using it has access to. The server does not, only you, okay? So I'm just going to rename this to input since this is what it's for. And let's get started, right? So the first thing that I'm just going to do is I'm going to get the player. This is really the first thing you want to do a lot of the times when you're making a local script. So I'm just getting the player that's using this. And then I'm going to access the replicated storage. So I'm going to use the replicated storage to store events, remote events to be specific. So I'm going to fire those to communicate with the server, because the server is going to be doing the attacks, the visuals. So everybody can see it, not just one player. That's very important. And then I'm going to be accessing the lightning. I'm going to rename this to lightning event. and I'm going to add that right now. So if I go to my replicated storage, click the plus sign, add this remote event. I'm going to rename this to lightning event. Remember, whenever I fire this, it's going to go to the server and everybody can see it. If you need review on remote events and stuff like that, definitely watch another video for a bit, come back here. But we're going to keep going. So I'm going to do this, wait for child's lightning event. I'm doing wait for child because if it's not replicated to the replicated storage, it will actually throw away an error right away and the script won't run. So we don't want that to happen. Next, we want to get the user input service. So the user input service, basically all this is, it allows the user to communicate with their keyboard, mouse, and we can detect that. So this is very important for mouse clicks, keyboard presses, stuff like that. Okay, let's go on. So now we're going to actually start detecting these. These are just all of our variables. These don't do anything right now. We're going to make them do something. So what I'm going to do is access one of the properties of user input service, or one of the methods, and do uis.inputBegan. So this will detect when the user clicks anything, when they move, do anything. And then I'm going to connect this to a function. So when I say connect to a function, that means anything inside this function will run when the player uses the keyboard or the mouse. Input, and it takes two arguments. An argument is just a parameter, it's what goes inside these little braces. So these are two default arguments that happen. So input is like the type of input, whether it's keyboard, the mouse button click, and the game processing is like if they're using the chat, stuff like that. So for example, if they're actually if the game is processing, like if they're chatting, we're just going to want to return. We don't want to do anything. Okay, so that's good. We immediately end that. Next, we're going to be using the input, which is this one right here. I just abbreviated to IMP. That's what I do. Imp dot key code. So now I'm looking for a key code, not a mouse button. A key code is like any key on the keyboard, Q, W, E, stuff like that. So I'm gonna use the Q key. So if the user presses Q, then anything inside of here will run. So anything inside this if statement will run if the player presses Q. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to do lightning event fire server. So now we're actually going to be communicating with the server. So I'm going to go back to server script service and I'm going to add a script. So this is where we actually begin scripting the attack. So this is like the more fun part, the more important part. They're both very important, but everyone's going to be seeing this one. So I'm going to rename the script just to lightning. Doesn't matter what you have it named. So once you have that, just go inside the script. I'm going to drag all of these little assets, the lightning sound, explosion, and the lightning model underneath the lightning script. Easier access, stuff like that. So I'm going to begin with just defining some variables I'll need later on. So one variable I'll need is random, so I can actually just get random numbers, pretty easy. And then I'm going to get replicated storage again. Oops. And then I'm going to get the lightning event back from the replicated storage. Remember, we need this to communicate between the client and the server. Okay, there we go. And now we're going to get debris. So debris is kind of like destroy. It will destroy something, but over like X seconds. So you'll be seeing this later on too. All these are very important. And then for now, I'm going to just have these. These are important. I'm going to define a table too. And you don't have to do this, but for me, I'm going to just have a table. For some reason, I just like to have this. It's a little bit more organized of all of the assets under here. So lightning bolt equals script.lightning. That's my lightning bolt right here. That's the physical object. And then lightning particles. This is the explosion effect. And then we got the lightning strike, which is the sound. Okay, so now I'm going to actually, once I get all this, I'm pretty much set. So now I'm just going to reference this variable on server event. So now I'm just listening for the mouse button click. So I'm just waiting for this event to be fired. So whenever the player presses Q, it's going to go in here. So now what I'm going to do is actually check for the amount of enemies in the range. So I'm going to do this by going through the workspace and I'm going to go through every single part in the workspace and check the distance between the parts. So I'm going to do a for each loop. This is how I'm going to do it. Workspace get children. We'll retrieve all the children in the workspace in a table form. And I'm going to check if the part actually exists, and which really isn't necessary because most of the things will exist in the workspace, but good practice. I'm going to check if the part has humanoid. This will validate that it's actually a character and not like an inanimate object. And I'm going to make sure it's not my character, which I forgot to explain. This actually takes one argument too, and that's the player argument. So whenever the player fires the event, the player automatically gets passed as an argument. So we're doing really good so far. So now I'm going to say local char equals part and reference that part. So now I can start checking the distance between the parts. And the distance between two vectors is going to be the magnitude. So magnitude is the distance between two objects without taking into consideration direction, such as a scalar value. So this is all we need, just the amount of players. It's like a bubble, think of it like that. So if we have a character, for example, just add one real quick. Oops, plugins, build array, gar15. Just think of it like a giant bubble around this character. So if I say range 10, it might be this far. If I say range like 30, it might be even further around the character. So I'm going to be checking for that. And I'm going to give it a pretty generous range. So I'm going to say less than 125. Then I'm going to insert the enemy into the table. So once I insert this enemy into the table, then I'm pretty much set. It just goes through all the characters in the workspace, finds the closest enemies, adds them to the table, and we're set. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, why not just have the sound play. So this will actually just play the sound. That's all it's going to do, like the lightning strike. And now for the actual attack part. So I'm going to go through the list of the enemies in range. So I'm going to get each enemy in range and I'm going to have them get struck by lightning. So first things first, I got to actually get the lightning bolts. So it looks like they're getting struck. So I got to go to the lightning info, lightning bolts, and then I'm going to clone that. So I need to clone it each time or it's not going to work. And then I'm going to parent this to the workspace so everyone can see it. And now it gets a little confusing here because I'm working with coordinate frames. So you can just follow along. I'm going to take the primary parts position of the enemy, and I'm going to add a vector 3 onto this, and this is just going to offset the lightning bolts above the character. There we go. And I'm actually going to make it so the lightning bolt's kind of spinning randomly, so it looks better. So I'm going to do cframe.angles 0. math.rad. This means radians, unless you took like algebra class, I guess, or not algebra. It's actually pre-calc. You wouldn't really know what this means. Don't worry about it if you don't. Just put math.rad around any degree angle you're gonna have, because it uses the unit circle and stuff. Actually, I think I want this right here. That's important, I think. Make sure. I'm going to be testing this out, make sure I'm doing everything right later. So let me make sure all my parentheses are correct. So I got a parenthesis here to the end. I got a parenthesis here that's closed. Parenthesis here. I think I have an extra one here. Yeah, I don't need that. Okay, actually I might need that. Just making sure I got everything. Okay, if we don't got everything, we'll get an error, it's okay. We'll come back to that then. And then I'm going to actually set the bolt's transparency to 0 so everyone can see it. And next, we're going to have the particle effects. So I'm going to do explosion clone. I'm going to clone that. So that's the particle effects that we have. And actually, that's the lightning info dot lightning particles. And if you remember the plugin we got, I think it actually allows you to do this. I'm not sure if you were able to do this before. So we'll emit 100 particles from the player's root part. And now debris service, I'm essentially just destroying the items. I'm going to destroy the items after just 0.1 seconds. So it's a quick flash and it's done. Enemy, gonna have them take some damage from this. 10 I'll have it do. Let's see what we got so far. So actually, let me add some enemies. So I'm just gonna add some NPCs, just some random rigs around. I'm gonna add some rigs and I'm gonna play the game. Let's see what we got. Ooh, we got a little error here already. Well, the error was just that I had to add a another parenthesis here to close it. So that's the whole thing, and then we got this, and I actually accidentally did that in play mode. Let's not do that. Let's see what we got. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. They're getting struck by lightning, but as you can see, the particles aren't actually being emitted. That is probably because it's actually not being parented. So we're going to parent it to their primary part, which is their humanoid root part. And let's hope this works. So everything should almost work. Last thing we're going to have to add, camera shake, then we're done. There we go. Gets destroyed a little too fast. Let's make this like 2 seconds because it will disappear anyway. So let's get this camera shake done. So I'm going to add a remote event. Same place as replicated storage. It's going to be named camera shake. So what I'm going to do is in the same script, I'm going to go here, camera shake equals replicated storage. I'm going to do wait for child again. And it's going to be, it's going to be referenced like this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually communicate with the client. So whenever this event is ran on the server, let's just have this fire back to the client because it's only going to shake for one player. That's all we're having. So now we actually want to come back to the input script, and we're going to start the camera shake in here. So I'm going to reference the camera shake, again, just like I did in the server. And now I'm going to I'm actually going to add a module. So what I'm going to do is go to my toolbox. I'm going to go to the little marketplace, models. I think it's called Easy Camera Shake. Search up camera shaker or something. Easy camera shake. You know what? Actually, don't go off any of these. I'm going to I'll put the link into the description of the video so you could get it there. Yeah, it's that's my plugins. Yeah, it's by Slightnick if you want to get it from the toolbox, but I'm gonna have it in the description anyway, so don't worry about that. Grab that camera shaker when you have it installed and everything. Just drag that down underneath the input script. So now once we have that, let's just do script. Actually, we have to require this since it's a module script. You don't have to fully understand this. It's like it's someone else made this for us. It's meant to be more convenient. You can make your own camera shaker script. It's just gonna be a little bit harder. So this is what we're gonna do. So what I'm gonna do is do camera shake since this is the event on client event. So all this is saying is whenever this event gets fired, it's coming right back to the client. So I'm going to copy and paste something from my other scripts. You guys can take a second, just copy and paste this. And also before you pause, I'm actually going to put the current camera in here. So that's very important for us to have. So what I'm going to do is workspace. I name this camera. There we go. So take a second, copy this, and let's see what it looks like. Let's see if we have any errors. Let's see if it works. Let's test this out. Boom. Oh, this is actually really good. That worked out. See, every enemy in the area, they get zapped. Not me. Just the enemies. So that's what it looks like, guys. By the way, I'm sorry if I was coughing for this video. I'm still kind of getting over it. Like my throat's a little dry, that's all. It's just actually I feel pretty good. Just dry throat. That happens. It's a little it's not humid. It's kind of dry in my room right now. That's all. So there's actually one more thing I do want to add. I almost forgot about this. Is the cooldown. So I'm gonna just do that quick. So I'm gonna have the cooldown be 5 seconds, and we want to detect every click. So I'm just going to use tick for this. If you have your own cooldown methods, feel free to use that. I use this method. It's definitely the best. It's the most accurate in my opinion. So